Audio Jungle.
Sometimes when it comes to online marketing today, things can be more complicated than they were if you owned a business 10 to 20 years ago, but they don't really have to be. And so sometimes when I get talk to business owners, they're like, man, there's so many options out there for me to market my business. And I agree, there's a lot of options. And I always tell somebody, advertising and marketing your business, there's never like a bad way to market your business, right? Like any marketing, I think is good marketing, is good to market. There are some things though that might help you more than others, in particular for your particular business, right? So a laundromat might be different than a restaurant or different than a big corporate retailer. We focus on independent family owned businesses. So the Barrett type businesses where Tim and his family member decided to start a business up and they're typically running the business themselves. That's who we really help focus on. Developing attractive listings at all the major search engines, that is what is most, I would say, important in your moment of truth when somebody is looking for a business. Barry, you said this. I don't know if you were recorded before we started recording, before you said this or after you said this, but you said, everyone today really uses their cell phones, right? Like you don't know anybody who doesn't have a cell phone today. And my 11-year-old, my 8-year-old begging me for cell phones constantly. It's going to be the thing that everybody kind of even grew up with, maybe different than even people on this call, early on in their lives. So if you think of the way cell phones work, we are so instant the way we find information. We need to be able to see it quickly. We don't take a long time. If you cannot be found within seconds, sometimes your competitor will win your call, even though they wanted it to work potentially with you. So there's different search engines that you can work with your business on. And I think it's very important to understand that while Google is very important and it's one of my most used search engines, the other search engines are very important as well because the way cell phones work. Most people are using Google, but the way cell phones work is that you might pull the map up on your iPhone. That's using Apple Maps. That's not Google Maps. A lot of people don't realize that. I would say that is the mapping software that people think I'm on Google, but I'm actually on Apple Maps, right? So, you might be asking Siri or talking to your smartphone, and that could be pulling up from a different place. Or, you might be on Bing if you're on a desktop computer. That might be the default search engine that came up on your computer. So, Google is important, but it's important to understand the other search engines. Customers do go there, whether they realize it or not, just because of the way their device is set up. So, for most business customers, the search is going to start and end at the local listings. Now, we're going to talk today about the local listings, your, GMB page. We're not going to talk about paid ads. And there's definitely a difference between paid ads and local listings. And there's nothing wrong with paid ads. Even if you do a paid ad, you do want to update your local business listing. So that's super important because they are actually separate things. Getting all of your information attractive on all the search engines is not important to land customers when they go to those search engines, but all of this actually helps your ranking on Google. So there are 5 aspects that are going to impact your rank, right? So when you talk about looking up, I don't have a lot of time, I'm looking up a laundromat, looking up a category, I'm going to call the business that shows up pretty close on the top of the search engines. There's 5 things that are important in determining on the search engines who shows up at the top. So one is the proximity of the searcher. Like, are you local to is the searcher looking locally, right? Freshness of information. Stale content is the kiss of death in strong online visibility and ranking. What I find a lot of times is that businesses will go in and update their business listing one time and think that they're fine. You have to keep exercising to stay in shape, right? Like you have to keep going to the gym. You can't just have a one-stop, quick hit diet. Like if you keep eating, you're going to gain weight again. So you need to continue to exercise and work out. That is the way I think of freshness content. Engagement, so engaging content. And what do I mean by that? So fresh images that consumers want to see, right? Reviews. Consumers love reviews today, and they actually want you to see you responding to reviews. And you can do that on the listings as well. Videos, posts, other really good information about products and services, and we'll go ahead and dive into that later on. The fourth piece is authenticity. So, is your content authentic and original? Are you using stock images? So, I see this a lot where maybe a laundry owner is using stock image of the same washer and dryer that is used across thousands of laundromats throughout the country, right? Like, so that's not a unique content. That's not unique content to your business. An actual photo that you've taken or you've had a photographer take for your business is unique content. Credibility. And then the final thing is it trustworthy? So business consumers want businesses with more reviews. And so Google knows that. And businesses with more reviews, not only are customers more likely to choose you, you're actually more likely to rank higher on the search engines. So it's why I say to any business, like, the number one way for you to increase your business is actually to increase your your reviews online. Because not only are consumers going to choose you because of your reviews, but it's also going to help with your ranking. So that's super important in today's age, and it's not going to go away. Reviews are becoming more and more important. So, what do you do in terms of the best practice to really build out that visible and attractive business listing? So first, you need to officially verify. So go into all the listings and make sure that you're verified on the listings, and then you're going to want to enhance that listings and then professionally manage that. And what I mean by that is continue to update it to what the search engines want to see. You need to add authentic photos, a professionally written business description. They crave business descriptions. It helps you in terms of your rank. You look more professional. And then updating your hours, if you have any different brands or services, how long you've been in business, any business characteristics. And then you're going to obviously keep the profile relevant and fresh. And then finally, add the service areas. So, with like delivery service or pickup service, you might have your business physically located somewhere, but you might travel, up to 20 minutes or however far you decide to travel. And a customer doesn't always assume that a business 20 minutes away is going to service them. So if you have a service area, you're going to want to include that in there. And then making sure your map pin is up to date. I just went on a trip last week to Boston, and I was shocked the number of map pins that were wrong as my husband and I took our kids different places. Have making sure your map pin is correct so that when somebody has driving directions, if you're ever finding that somebody's lost to your business, it could be a few things. It could be that they're using a search engine that you didn't, maybe it's MapQuest. You need to update the MapQuest. It might be that your Google pin is off. And that happens sometimes where your address is actually correct, but your map pin is off. So you do need to move that. I see that happening a lot with all different types of businesses.